So you made a good point there too, of like, what are some of the key areas that most, I mean, we'll say PT, but man, this could relate to any healthcare business at all, to
Absolutely.
be honest with you. What is it that, the buyer would want to see? So core leadership that's not dependent upon just the quote unquote owner person, that for the founder, so to speak, that was been there. And that you have some good tenured people that can, run the operations for the business. That would be one. I would say that. What's another big thing that they look at? I mean, obviously, I'll go to number one. I mean, obviously, they're going to look at your margins too. They want to make sure that this thing actually can create some positive cash flow. Yeah. So I would say that's probably that's still got to be number one, as far as what's going to determine the value of your business.
But then depends on who you're talking to. If you're talking to a strategics, most of them are big enough that they have already negotiated rates that are higher. So what they're looking at is they want to see what are the buckets of your patients that are coming in. What insurances do they belong to? Because if they belong to insurances that they have way higher margins than you do, that goes into their calculations, right? Because if they're getting paid, I'll make up a number, $150 for this insurance, and you're only getting paid $100, but you see a lot of these patients, they're putting that in their formula, and they're like, that's great. As soon as we acquire it, we're already going to start making more money. So that's a part of it. So to understand who you're marketing to.
Would you be able to use that to negotiate a higher price, or are they just 100%. Like,
but
you would?
That's where you have to do your homework, and you have to know who you're talking to. That's why setting a plan ahead of time and understanding who is the acquirer and how do I actually position myself at the greatest advantage for that acquirer. And it's going to be different for a strategic that you're talking to, or it's going to be different than a private equity company that you're talking to.
So
and to do a little homework.
Explain the difference between those two right there. What's a strategic, private equity?
Strategic would be a large physical therapy company that has multiple offices already, has their kind of blueprint in their operations. They already know how they're doing things, and they're just fitting you into their model.
So there's just a privately owned, typically?
It could be a privately owned. It could be a private equity owned entity. Okay, but they're a large entity that have everything already figured out. They have a C-suite. They already have, billing rates and negotiated rates, and they're just looking to add you into the fold.
Okay. How big are these usually? How many practices?
It could be from 30 offices all the way to hundreds and hundreds of offices across the country, or it could be just concentrated in one or two states, or just, one state.
Yeah. Yeah. And they'll have like a number of partners in this group.
Yep. If it's private equity owned, which is different than private equity. And what I mean by that, I'll explain. The strategics are already physical therapy companies. Then you have private equity companies who want to get into the healthcare market, right? They might have other healthcare verticals. They might be in dentistry. They might be in ophthalmology. They might have surgical centers, but they don't have physical therapy yet. And they want to add that, right? So they're hunting. And depending on who you're talking to, some of them may have lost out on previous bids, where that knowledge helps you to realize that they've lost out on previous bids. So they may be more apt to bid a little higher on this one because they want to get it.
Mm-hmm.
So doing your homework on the acquirer actually helps you to strategically position yourself for the best possible position.
Yeah.